Hello everyone, bringing you an unboxing video today. I haven't made one of these for a little while because I haven't really had a huge amount of stuff arrive recently, but I have recently received some bits and pieces from Australia from my friend Kieran over there, who's sent me these bits and pieces over, sort of collected them together and sent them over to me once again. So without further ado, we'll have a look at what's arrived from Australia. So here is the box of bits which has arrived. I have opened this up to avoid all the noise of tape and everything on the video. Just the annoyance of that. I'll lift this away to one side now and pull out the bits and pieces which have arrived to have a look at in a bit more detail. So first of all, we have an early example of the hip pad, which was favoured amongst Australian soldiers to make the kit a little bit more comfortable to wear, and this could be attached to the waist belt and it sat round the hips to make the equipment a little bit more comfortable to wear. You can see there we've got 4 little straps with snaps or press studs which allow this to be fastened around the belt. You can see the inside face of it there. We actually have marking on the back there someone's individual number, and not entirely sure on that. So what have we got? PAR 932, so not entirely sure on that, but certainly an individual marking on the back there, not a manufacturer's stamp or anything. And if I remember correctly from what Kieran was saying, I think these were private purchases at this point before the issue examples were introduced, but happy to be corrected on that. I may be misremembering what Kieran said, but a nice thing to have anyway. Good to go with sort of the 80s, the late 80s Australian kit that I'm putting together. Well, most of those bits and pieces for that sort of thing now, but this is a nice addition to that equipment. So a hip pad there. Some more Auscam here. Some more DPCU bits and pieces. This is a walkabout, so if we have a look at this here, rather nice to have. Kieran said he was including one of these. You can see the details on the label there, the sizing and so forth, and it's basically sort of a gilet. It's a padded sleeveless jacket, rather nice to have. And I say I really like the Australian camouflage pattern, so it's very nice to have from that point of view first of all, and it'll be quite a nice garment to wear on occasion as well. I think these post-date the sort of area that I'm mostly interested in, which is up to the very early 1990s. I do think they post-date that a little bit, but I could be wrong on that. Again, any further information much appreciated in the comments section if anyone can clarify that. So a really nice item in pretty good condition looking at it, a little bit grubby, but nevertheless in nice overall condition, not heavily worn. Next thing to have a look at here is another piece for my sort of Australian Vietnam War personal items, a small kit. This is a period can of Castlemaine 4X bitter, and this is, as you can see, a ring pull, so 70s, early 70s, very late 60s potentially. That seems to be when Australian beer manufacturers were first introducing ring pulls onto their cans. So we've got that there. It's not in bad condition, a little bit of rust around the bottom, but otherwise the label itself is nice and intact. The printing's held up very well. So that's, I think I've got 3 now. We've got VB, 4X, and I think I have a Swan Lager can as well, I think. So really nice to have. Again, these turn up in photographs of Australian troops in Vietnam in some instances. It's a lot easier to get American beer of the period, or rather American beer cans from the period. Finding Australian examples a little bit more difficult, so it's nice to add another one to the collection. Good for displays. Another thing to have a look at here is a pair of boots, and we have a pair here of the later Second War era Australian boots, still in brown before they changed over to black leather in the immediate post-war years. Really pleased to have these. I think they might be a little small for me looking at them. Not tried them on yet, but they're nevertheless quite a large size. Most of the boots of this pattern that you see turn up these days tend to be somewhere around a size 6. I think these may be a size 9, and I take a 10 or an 11. They may be a 10, not entirely sure, but I'll be able to squeeze into them hopefully, at least for photographs and for maybe the odd display here and there. We'll see. Nice to have a nice pair of these in the collection anyway. I can't remember what size was stated on the listing. I bought them quite a while ago, and they've been in with Kieran for a while, waiting to be sent over. So I'll be interested to try these on at some point. Something to mention as well with these bits and pieces which have arrived, I believe they've survived a flood which affected Kieran's grandmother, where he was keeping quite a bit of the kit and bits and pieces at his grandmother's. And unfortunately, these were part of the deluge. They were part of what suffered in the deluge, but they've come up rather well. He's dubbing them for me, and they seem to have not suffered too much from that. I think some of the other bits, the paper ephemera we're going to have a look at in a minute, suffered a little bit more. So I'll be interested to try those on anyway. So some smaller bits and pieces here. One thing we have here is the later Warrant Officer's badge, I believe, with the Australian coat of arms rather than the Royal coat of arms. That's woven, and sort of bevo style weaving there, as you can see. Nice to have. This came with the main item I was interested in, which was, I believe it did, with the, let's have a look here. I may be getting mixed up. Were these all together? Can't remember now. Anyway, we have a fairly modern New Zealand title, which is not of particular interest to me, but it came with this rather nice Royal New Zealand Provost Corps shoulder title, which is in lovely condition. And this was on sale in Australia, saw it on an online web shop, and purchased it, sent it over to Kieran, and he's included it for me here. So that ties in nicely with the beret I picked up previously. Really pleased with that. Some badges there. And then we also have, for display purposes, we have the Australian Vietnam Service Medal, and then the Vietnam Service Medal itself. You can see that there, the two medal ribbons on a little bar, and they have a pin back on the back there. It'd be nice to have for displays of certain things. You do see them worn on the green shirt occasionally. So for mannequin displays and things going forward, nice to have these, and just nice to have for display as well. Can just have them out on the table when I do that sort of a display going forward. So a few little bits of insignia and some medal ribbons there. And we have a selection of paper ephemera here, some of which is a bit worse for wear, unfortunately. Yes, this is one of the magazines which has suffered in the flood, unfortunately, as you can see, but still have some mud on it there. So got some Australian soil there come over with the package. Unfortunately, it's not survived too badly. It's not survived too badly overall, but an Australian Man magazine from the 60s, which was quite a popular magazine of the time. I'll have to keep an eye out for another example of this issue of it to try and replace this one, because it has suffered a bit, which is a shame. But never mind. We have another one here, and there are two magazines here which were wrapped in plastic. So we'll have a look here. We have another copy of Man magazine here again from 67, and another one here again from 67. Obviously that must have been the year, I guess, that the size and the style changed over slightly. So what have we got there? July, February, it must have changed over to this as the newer design. March, February, and then July 1967, Man magazine. As I say, it would be nice to find a replacement of this one at some point in the future. I shall have to keep an eye out. And one more magazine to have a look at as well. I think this one has suffered a bit in the flood as well. This one hasn't suffered as badly. Another example of the Australian Post, and I have an example of I think a slightly later example of one of these already. Again, they're just a nice thing to add on to the displays of personal items. A nice thing to add on to the sort of table displays I do at the hangar and elsewhere. So another example, Australian Post there, again from the Vietnam era, 1967, and September in this instance, as you can see. So yeah, that's everything I think that's arrived in the box. I have one last look and can confirm that's everything. So thank you very much once again, Kieran. So I want to say thank you very much once again, Kieran, for your assistance once more, getting these bits and pieces over from Australia. These various items no doubt will show up in future videos going forward, and also at displays and so forth in the future as well. If you found it interesting looking at these bits and pieces and you'd like to see them in more detail going forward, please do consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't already. And whether you're newly subscribing or you've previously subscribed, please do make sure you hit the little bell, the notification button down below. That will of course alert you when I upload future videos. If you really like my uploads and you would like to support the channel, you can. Both Patreon and PayPal are linked down below. And as ever, a huge thank you to everybody who supports the channel using those two methods. It really is greatly appreciated. Thank you all very much indeed. If you'd like to follow the channel on social media, you can. Facebook, Instagram and Twitter are all linked down below. And if you'd like to get in touch with me but you don't really use social media, there is of course an email address down there as well. That's everything for this video, so until next time, bye for now.